I just woke up in a fucking steaming mood, yeah? Because I live in a shithole!
Rapture.
It's a fucking shithole! I hate the fucking place! I fucking hate it! It's full of dickheads! I fucking hate it!
Alright boys and girls, I hope you're all having a lovely day, okay? Today boys, I want to talk about BIOSHOCK 2, okay? This is a game that I played about maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago. I played it late last month, and I wanted to talk about it, okay? And the main reason I wanted to revisit it, lads, is that I played the original last year, and I just had an absolute blast with it, okay? I mean, it's probably one of my favourite games of all time now. When I originally played it, I did enjoy it, but I definitely enjoyed it more after revisiting it. I was a teenager when I played BIOSHOCK 1, and I just don't think I fully grasped how amazing the story and the world of Rapture was. When I was playing that game, I was just like killing people, and I thought, oh cool, this is a nice little water world, and there's a big guy with a drill, and there's some weird little sisters and their weird red eyes, and I thought, okay, this is a cool world, and I like killing people, but I don't think I really took in the story.
It's a lucky thing I had my pieces.
Your pieces?
My guns.
Oh.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bah!
Wow.
Bah! Well, I don't see so good, so I missed. Then they ran away.
I wasn't looking for those audio tapes trying to find out what was going to happen next, and I even remember, like, the twist didn't really, like, make me feel anything when I originally played it. I just don't think I fully understood it, you know, and I just think the entire story went over my head. I was just too young for it, I guess, I don't know. But when I played it last year, again, it just blew me away. I was just so absorbed in the world of Rapture and the whole story, and the twist was incredible. Just everything about the story of BIOSHOCK 1 completely blew me away. When I was playing it, I just felt like I was there in person. I felt like I was in Rapture. It was just such a profound experience, okay? One of my favorite gaming memories I've ever had was playing BIOSHOCK 1 last year. So yeah, when it came around to playing BIOSHOCK 2, boys, I was a little bit concerned, okay? Because I just adored BIOSHOCK 1 so much, and I just had it in my head that BIOSHOCK 2 is just not going to be as good. First of all, I have virtually like zero memories of playing BIOSHOCK 2. I remember playing it, I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember anything about the story or anything really in particular about that game that I loved. I just remember playing it, and I remember liking it, and that was it. And the second reason I was concerned about playing BIOSHOCK 2 is it does have a bit of a consensus of being an inferior sequel to the original, you know? Not that many people love BIOSHOCK 2 as much as the first one. I have noticed that a lot of people have started to come around to BIOSHOCK 2. I have noticed that people are a lot more positive about it now than they used to be. I remember when it first came out, like, people just weren't happy with BIOSHOCK 2, but I was still pretty concerned about playing BIOSHOCK 2. I just felt like it was going to be a, like, super inferior sequel. But I'm happy to report, lads, that I thought BIOSHOCK 2 was a very, very good game. Now, I will say, I don't think it's anywhere near as good as the original, at least when it comes to the story and stuff, but I still had an absolute blast with BIOSHOCK 2, and I'm really glad I played it. Okay then, boys and girls, so let's get into things then with BIOSHOCK 2, okay? So this game kicks things off, and you're playing as a Big Daddy. Now, I probably should explain what a Big Daddy is to those of you who have never played BIOSHOCK. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar, but I'll just go through it very briefly. A Big Daddy is basically like, I mean, he's a big motherfucker with a big drill in his hand.
Big freaky looking bitch.
And basically they were created to protect the little sisters. The little sisters are these little girls who have just been like completely consumed by like collecting Adam. They go around Rapture looking for dead bodies, and they take all of their Adam, okay? And the Big Daddies were created to protect them. They've pretty much just been brainwashed, okay? And all they care about is protecting the little sisters, okay? So that they can collect the Adam. And for those of you wondering what the hell Adam is, basically it's like a chemical thing that comes from like sea slugs that was discovered by somebody called Tenenbaum. And it was used to like heal people's wounds because it was like some crazy discovery that it had like accelerated healing, and it was just making like, it was basically a miracle drug. It was just curing people's crazy like wounds and stuff.
His hands were crippled during the war. He was unloading the barge the other day when he was bitten from the sea slug. He woke up the next morning and he found he could move his fingers for the first time in years.
And then out of nowhere, Adam just like let people have powers and shit, okay? So people have like, I don't know, they got like fire in their hands and stuff. It's a very confusing thing to like explain. If you play the games, you know what I'm talking about, but yeah, if you've never played it, you're probably like confused as shit right now. And I'm doing a really poor job of explaining it. I'm explaining it like a toddler would. But anyway, I just wanted to quickly, briefly explain that, just in case you've never played it and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Anyway, you play as a Big Daddy in BIOSHOCK 2, okay? You play as one of those big guys that's trying to protect little sisters. And obviously at first that sounds like a really, really cool idea, okay? You're playing as a big guy with a drill and you're going around killing people. Like, what's not to love about that? However, I do feel like there is one big problem with playing as the Big Daddy, okay? And that is like the fact that we're escaping away from the horror elements of BIOSHOCK 1. One of the things I love about BIOSHOCK 1 is that the first like couple hours of that game are actually kind of creepy and scary.
What have I got myself into?
I am fucking shitting myself.
yourself.
I wouldn't say it's a horror game, okay? There are some people that might consider BioShock 1 as a horror game. I'm not one of those people. I think it's, you know, it's not really that, but it definitely has horror elements in it. I think the BioShock 1 intro is one of the best intros in a game ever, okay? It just sets up the world of Rapture perfectly, how it was this amazing utopia that just completely crumbled, and it gives off this really creepy feel to it at the beginning. You feel like you're in the complete unknown, and it's very, like, scary. And our very first encounter of civilization in Rapture is with these splicers that are trying to murder us. So yeah, Rapture isn't exactly a, like, welcoming place, okay? And again, it's pretty damn nerve-wracking to be in Rapture. And yeah, I feel like BioShock 2 leaves all of that horror away. Now in BioShock 2, we're in the shoes of probably one of the most fearsome enemies in the world of Rapture, okay? We are the fear here, so it's obviously not that scary. And I guess maybe with BioShock 2, they figured that they've already done the horror stuff with BioShock 1, and then now we've seen the world of Rapture that there wasn't much use trying to, you know, use fear again, because those who've played BioShock 1 aren't going to be scared, obviously, playing the sequel, because we kind of know what to expect. So I guess that we're trying to go with something different, but yeah, it was just an aspect of BioShock 2 that I kind of missed from the original. Anyway, boys, we got a little bit off topic there, okay? Let's get back on track, okay? So in BioShock 2, we're playing as a Big Daddy, okay? We've established that. And we're playing as a Big Daddy called Delta. Now, as you guys know, the Big Daddies are created so that they can protect the little sisters, and the little sister that Delta is looking after is called Eleanor. Eleanor is doing what all little sisters do, looking for Adam, okay? So she's going around Rapture, you know, hunting down the Adam, and then out of nowhere, somebody called Sophia Lamb ambushes us. And what is revealed to us, lads, is that Sophia Lamb is actually the mother of Eleanor. Unfortunately for our main protagonist, Delta, we're forced to shoot ourselves in the head, so yeah, that's not exactly good, and you know, most of us were pretty thinking, okay, he's dead. However, lads, miraculously, Delta is able to survive this gunshot wound, and he wakes up 10 years later. I don't really know how he's managed to do that, but hey.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch?
So Delta's purpose for the remainder of this game is to try and reunite with Eleanor, because if he doesn't, then he will die. Basically, Big Daddies were created in a way that if they are separated from the little sisters, then they end up dying, okay? Which is, yeah, that's pretty unfortunate for our friend Delta. And long story short, Sophia Lamb wants to use Eleanor as a vessel to store people's memories. I'm not really entirely sure how this is possible, but basically, like, there's memories stored in Adam, and she wants to use Eleanor, you know, to do this. It's a very, like, complex thing. I don't really fully understand it, to be honest with you. So yeah, to a lot of people, Sophia Lamb is like the savior, okay? There's a lot of people that look up to Sophia Lamb because she wants to do this. Like, a lot of people see her as a bit of a martyr, I suppose. But anyway, boys, I'm not going to get any deeper into the story, okay? I kind of just wanted to set things up to you guys. I will say the story is good here. I did enjoy the story, but in my opinion, it's nowhere near as good as the original BioShock. I was just nowhere near as interested in BioShock 2's story as I was with the original. I do think it's a very good story, but I just, in my opinion, it doesn't quite live up to BioShock 1's story. Like, to me, BioShock 1, I just was completely blown away by it. I was so in, like, I felt like I was in Rapture, you know? I literally felt like I was there sometimes. Every single audio tape I would find in BioShock 1, I was just encapsulated. I wanted to know what happened next. Every little breadcrumb of story I would get, I was just fascinated. And with BioShock 2, I wasn't quite there with the story, you know, like I was with the original. I was interested, I was intrigued, but not as much as I was with BioShock 1.
This is brilliant. But I like this.
I felt like with BioShock 2's story, it really lacked, to me at least, like, super interesting characters. It's not like the characters in BioShock 2 were bad by any means, lads. They just weren't as memorable as in BioShock 1. I felt like in BioShock 1, there were so many fascinating characters. Like, you have Bridget Tenenbaum in BioShock 1, and she is in BioShock 2 very briefly, but it is very brief, okay? But yeah, you actually get to explore her character in BioShock 1, and it's just such a fascinating story. And then you got characters like Steinman that were just, like, so fucking interesting. Like, they were just, like, so crazy, and you just wanted to know more about these characters, and every audiobook you find on these different characters, you were just listening with intent, finding out what happened to these characters, you know? You got characters like Sander Cohen, who's just so fascinating. And again, in BioShock 2, the characters are, like, decent enough and all, but yeah, they just didn't have quite the same memorability as they do in BioShock 1. Even the main villain in BioShock 2, Sophia Lamb, decent villain, don't get me wrong, but nowhere near as good as BioShock 1. In BioShock 1, you had Andrew Ryan, who was just absolutely iconic, and then obviously, like, the main villain of the game turned out to be Frank Fontaine, and again, just super interesting with a crazy twist in there, and there's no way you could forget characters like that. And with BioShock 2, I just felt like they weren't as memorable, in my opinion. Not bad, but just not as good as the first. So yeah, I know I keep comparing BioShock 2 to BioShock 1, and it sounds like I'm being super negative towards it. It maybe even sounds to some people like I don't like BioShock 2. I don't. I just don't think the story and the lore and everything is quite as good as the first one. But what BioShock 2 does way better than the original is gameplay, okay? That is undisputed. undisputed in my opinion. The gameplay of BioShock 2 is massively improved. First of all, BioShock 2 introduces a new hacking system, okay? One of the worst aspects of BioShock 1 in my opinion was the hacking. The hacking was just so annoying. I would auto-hack everything in BioShock 1 when I could, because it was just so hard to do the, you know, the mini-game for the hacking. It just wasn't worth it.
You sicken me. Look at you. You're fat, low-life, ugly, unemployed piece of shit.
In BioShock 2, the hacking is just simple, it's quick, it's easy, and it's just so vastly improved. So this was like one of the, like, I know it sounds like a small thing, but trust me, it was a big thing. It meant I could actually do some hacking in the game, whereas in BioShock 1, I just almost avoided it entirely. Another gameplay improvement in BioShock 2 is the fact that you can dual wield your plasmids and your gun. In BioShock 1, you have to sort of do one at a time, so you have your gun, and then you switch over to the plasmids. It's only like a brief second, but it's just kind of annoying. Like, for example, in BioShock 1, if you're reloading your gun, you have to wait for your gun to be reloaded before you can start using plasmids. In BioShock 2, you can reload your gun and use plasmids whilst doing it. It's just such a great gameplay improvement. Not to mention the fact that you can obviously, like, combine the two, so you could be setting someone on fire while shooting them in the face. Like, you know, that's obviously awesome. Then again, it's just a small little tweak, but it just definitely improves the overall experience of playing the game. Another thing that this game adds that I really liked was the fact that they added moral choices within the game, so you can actually make choices that impact the ending of the story. I might be mistaken here, but I do believe there's actually 6 endings to BioShock 2, which is absolutely awesome, whereas in BioShock 1, I think there was only 2. These endings are obviously impacted by the choices that you make in the game, so there's certain characters you'll be able to spare or kill, you know, depending on what choices you make, and obviously that impacts the ending. I'm also pretty sure that similar to the original, depending on how you treat the little sisters, it impacts the ending. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure, like, if you kill all the little sisters, then that impacts the ending, and if you spare them and you know, save them, that impacts the ending. I'm pretty sure about that. But yeah, it was just nice with this game that it allowed us to make some certain choices at certain moments, and it just, I don't know, it gives you that replayability, which I like. I like it when games allow you to make choices and it impacts the story. It just gives you a fresh experience if you're going to revisit it. And the final thing this game does gameplay-wise that I like is that it introduces some really cool new enemies. The big one that I think is worth talking about is the Big Sisters. Obviously, in the first game, you had the Big Daddies. In this game, you still have them, but now you got the Big Sisters as well, and the Big Sisters are fucking tough, okay? These are hard to fight, at least early game. Later in the game, they become pretty easy because you're just like super overpowered by the end of the game, but at the very beginning of the game, when you don't have too many plasmids and you're not like super overpowered, these are really difficult to destroy. I would even maybe go as far as saying like they were actually quite frustrating early game. I actually would dread seeing them in the beginning of the game. I was like, oh, for goodness sake, I've got to, you know, and I just knew I was gonna get my ass kicked.
I mean, this is look, man. I am suffering!
So yeah, the gameplay in BioShock 2 is definitely better than BioShock 1, okay? I don't feel like anyone can dispute that. It's just an overall better game, and these small little tweaks just make the, you know, the formula of BioShock 1 a lot more playable. The only thing I will say, though, with, like, the gameplay is it still feels very similar to BioShock 1, okay? Even though these tweaks help a lot with, like, the gameplay, it does still feel very similar to Bio 1. And honestly, that's, I think, the biggest reason for that is the plasmids are just too similar in this game. I think pretty much nearly all of the plasmids are exactly the same as they were in BioShock 1, which I feel like was a big missed opportunity. Obviously, I wasn't expecting like 30 new plasmids to use, but I feel like we could have done with a couple more. The only plasmid that I can even think of that was not in the original was the Scout plasmid, which basically allows you to turn into like a ghost, and I mean, it's an okay plasmid, but it's not the best, you know, it's not exactly super overpowered or anything. Actually, to the lie, lads, there is one more plasmid in the game, it comes later on in the game, and it allows you to summon Eleanor when she's obviously a big sister. I apologize if I've spoiled that for you guys. So yeah, basically you can summon Eleanor to help you fight. It's a bit of a mid plasmid, I won't lie. It's not the best one, it's a bit mid. But yeah, I would have liked a good few more plasmids in this game. I feel like that would have freshened up the gameplay and made it feel less like BioShock 1. And I think that's the biggest problem with BioShock 2, is it feels like an improved Bio 1, but it doesn't do enough to separate it from BioShock 1. And while the gameplay of BioShock 2 is definitely better than BioShock 1, I feel like the story of BioShock 1 is just so amazing that it definitely is a better experience than BioShock 2 in my opinion. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to mention with BioShock 2, boys and girls. I did enjoy my time with it. I thought it was a good game. Maybe I should actually mention as well, I haven't played Minerva's Den, okay? I've not played that DLC. I do plan to do so, but I just didn't have time, unfortunately. I've just got a lot on at the minute, but I have heard good things about that DLC, so I do plan to play it, and hopefully it's a nice, fresh experience. That'd be pretty damn fun to play, so I will get around to that eventually. Other than that, boys and girls, let me know in the comments, okay, have you played BioShock 2? Do you think it's the worst in the series? Do you maybe think it's the best in the series? Or maybe you think it's somewhere in the middle. I know a lot of people don't love BioShock Infinite as much as they used to. That used to be a really, like, proclaimed game that everyone loved, and nowadays it seems to get quite a lot of hate. I need to revisit it because I haven't played it since it originally came out. Anyway, lads, I'll let you guys go. Okay, subscribe here if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one, alright? Peace.